As you may have guessed, the burly
Oh
Matthias
my
shaved his arms
gosh.
and legs, did his nails and makeup, put on the dress, wig.
To think you're cute enough to pull off heels and makeup, boy, you look like you just got out of a fight. Like, what you mean? You can't be dressing up cute like that. Oh.
What is up, Fail Time? We are REKT and we're reacting. What is up, Fail Time? We're REKT and we're reacting to insane prison escapes. So I'm assuming people have escaped in extremely weird and creepy fashions, possibly. Let's see.
In 2011, guards on duty at the Osceola County Jail in Florida were startled by a loud banging noise of indeterminate origin at around 4 o'clock one morning. After investigating all of the cells without finding the source of the noise, they checked the security cameras that look in on the higher security inmates. One of those was Hector Luis Campos, and guards knew something was amiss when they noticed that Campos had covered up his camera with a sheet. They suspected an escape attempt, and they were almost right. Campos had apparently talked himself into believing he could become the Hulk because he was busy literally punching away at the bricks of his cell. Pieces of brick, mortar, and paint were found on the floor and in the toilet. And Campos' bricks of his cell. Pieces of brick, mortar, and paint were found on the floor and in the toilet. And Campos was sporting a battered and swollen right hand. It was a determined attempt to become the first inmate to ever punch his way to freedom. But the additional time that his escape charges will bring will probably hurt Campos even more than that hand.
Dude, that's hardcore. Punched his way out of prison.
He just wanted to be Shawshank Redemption. He just wanted to relive that.
Exactly.
Great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, fix it now.
An unidentified man in Brazil had the misfortune not only of his escape attempt failing, but of looking really silly in the attempt and allowing the whole thing to be caught on video. The man was waiting in a holding cell to be booked on charges of robbing a jewelry store, something which he apparently wasn't really looking forward to. Rather than face justice, he opted to try the Winnie the Pooh method of exit by attempting to squeeze through a hole in a door that was obviously much too small for him. As if getting stuck in this precarious position weren't enough, he had stripped down to nothing but his purple underwear, so that his clothes wouldn't get caught on the opening. Unfortunately, that just meant that his skin and bones got caught on the opening instead. After a long and painful struggle with chuckling firefighters wielding power tools, the man was eventually freed from his self-imposed trap, but not from jail. He'll probably be there for some time.
Do they have to cut the door? I'm assuming they had to cut the door.
Guys, they make the holes that size for a reason. I don't understand.
Inmate Orville Morris turned up missing from Westville Correctional Facility in Indiana in May 2017. The working theory was that he had gotten out in a truck, but guards were busy searching the facility and its 100 acres for any.
Does everyone just drive off into the grass there? There's like 8
While
car
searching the
tracks.
pallet shop where he worked, they came upon their first real evidence in the form of a strange noise coming from the ceiling above the shop. As it turned out, Morris had never really escaped at all. He decided to make his attempt on a Friday, climbed up into the ceiling, and then apparently couldn't figure out what to do next. He sat perched among the building's ductwork for the entire weekend, while prison officials searched the grounds, but couldn't keep quiet while guards conducted their search of his work area. In prison since 2014 for robbery, Morris had been due for release in 2019, but thanks to his long weekend, he signed himself up for a more extended stay.
What? If you're there for that long, just stay there for the extra, like, come on. That's just so dumb.
Climbed up in the ceiling and then didn't know what to do next. Everybody knows a successful prison break, it has to have a great plan.
You look sad.
A little bit.
And worn out and probably needs a shower. It stinks.
A pair of young crooks were having a bad day at their New Zealand court appearances in 2009. One had just been handed a 2-year sentence for assault, and the other was in court for a parole violation along with fresh charges of auto theft. The two were handcuffed together by chance while waiting, and when they saw a chance, they made a decision to make a break for it and figure out their handcuff situation later. However, they only got about 10 seconds to think it over. They stumbled and got pepper sprayed, but got up and continued to run. Then, with a court deputy chasing them and the pepper spray undoubtedly causing problems, the two failed to get themselves on the same side of a light pole that was in their path. One went one way, the other went another, and the two criminals wrapped around the pole and cartoonishly slammed into each other's faces. They stayed on the ground for longer than their brief flight lasted, and were eventually hauled to their feet and led back to their cells to await new escape charges.
That's amazing. Yes.
In In another case of genius escape plotting out of Brazil, William Alves was working in the kitchen in a city jail in the country's northeastern region when he concocted a brilliant plan. He would simply crawl into one of the kitchen's trash containers, cover himself up with some food and scraps,
This is
and
kinda
wait until
smart.
the receptacle was picked up for disposal, as
Ooh,
they were
risky
every
play.
day. It
Gonna
actually
get
doesn't
thrown and
seem like that
compacted.
far-fetched a plan, but there was a slight problem. The trash receptacle in question was not on the large side. It was in fact just barely big enough to hold Alves. Even though he managed to squeeze himself
His
all
name's
the way
Elvis.
inside, which must have been next to impossible, there was barely enough room left
Not the
over to
real
cover
one.
himself up with anything.
It's just his head
If that
poking
part
out.
of the plan had worked, it's ridiculous to think that maintenance staff wouldn't question why this medium-sized trash can mysteriously would weigh as much as a full-grown man. The ploy was quickly discovered and Alves was hauled
I
back
don't
to his
know.
cell,
I
presumably
feel like
trying
maintenance
to
isn't
play
that
the whole thing
well
off
thought
as
out
a joke.
sometimes. They're
otherwise.
probably just like,
No, it's a joke. Hey, A for effort, right?
It makes sense for it to be this size. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it in. I'd be more concerned about getting put in a trash can. You're just gonna get compacted. You're gonna forget. You're not gonna be able to get out. You're gonna get compacted into a cube, and it's all over.
It's all over.
April 2017, at Virginia Henrico's Jail East, 2 inmates, one in jail for grand larceny, the other on meth charges, decided to put their
can
escape
tell which
plan
one
into
was the meth
action
charges.
after apparently plotting it for some time. They made detailed drawings of the jail's exterior and somehow managed to get into the exercise yard after lights out. They knew that motion detector lights would quickly alert guards to their presence, so they only had a limited amount of time to sprint across the yard, scale the security fence, and navigate
That's
the razor
tough to
wire
do.
at the top using
Yeah.
extra clothes as a buffer.
Bad enough barbed
The
wire,
weak
but
link
razor
in
wire
their bold
touched cheetah
plan was
wire.
that both
Yeah.
of these inmates of time to
God,
sprint
that
across the
video.
yard, scale the security fence, and navigate the razor
gotta
wire
be
at the
so
top using extra
painful.
clothes
Yeah.
as a buffer. The weak link in their bold plan was that both of these inmates were in terrible shape. Guards noted that it's apparent on the video that the run across the yard took some of the wind out of them, and the climb up the tall fence sapped most of what strength they had left. By the time they found themselves dealing with the razor wire, all they managed to accomplish was cutting themselves up so badly that they knew the escape plot was a bust. Out of breath and bleeding profusely, the two simply sat down and waited to be caught.
You'd think to exercise in prison instead of becoming fat slobs.
At least they made it across the yard. See, I would be like, I'd take like 2 steps and be like, I just need like a Dr. Pepper or something. I'm just gonna sit and chill. You know what I'm saying? At least they made it that far.
Yeah.
If there's a theme to this list, it's that Brazilian prisoners are fond of trying to escape incarceration using methods that are elaborate, silly, or both. In the case of Ronaldo Silva, it's definitely both. Silva
Oh,
was
Ronaldo.
awaiting trial for drug trafficking when he instructed his wife to bring him several items during a visit. Somehow she was able to pass him one of her dresses, a pair of high heels, nail polish, makeup, and a wig, and that's when Silva put his plan into action. As you may have guessed, the burly
Oh
would-be
my
escapee shaved his arms
gosh.
and legs, did his nails and
Oh,
makeup, threw on the
no.
dress, wigs and heels, and simply walked right out.
My
past the
guy,
guards.
you ain't that
Unbelievably,
cute.
This part of the plan actually
You ain't that
succeeded,
cute.
but a
What you trying to
sharp-eyed
do
cop
right now?
patrolling the street past the guards.
Oh
Unbelievably, this
my
part of the plan
gosh.
actually succeeded, but a sharp-eyed cop patrolling the street outside the prison noticed that this woman had an odd manner of walking, because for all of his attention to detail, Silva had not taken the time to teach himself to walk properly in heels. The cop followed him to a bus station, where accomplices
Wait,
were
so he
waiting to
actually
pick him
got
up,
out
but
to
he
a
never
bus
made it to the
station.
rendezvous.
Yeah.
The cop
a
managed to
solid
take him
effort.
into custody and drag him back to jail.
I was wrong.
No pun intended.
If you could walk in heels, you'd be living right now, my guy.
Well, props for him fooling the cops.
Right?
And props to all the women out there who wear high heels. I'll admit, I tried it once. It's hard.
To think you're cute enough to pull off heels, makeup, boy, you look like you just got out of a fight. Like, what you mean? You can't be dressing up cute like that. Oh.
1989, drug kingpin Benjamin Barry Kramer was serving a life sentence at Metropolitan Correctional Center in Miami, one of the main prisons housing
like a
Florida's
fart
many
in
major
my
drug
mouth.
offenders in the 80s. This
disgusting.
kingpin had apparently watched one too many episodes of Miami Vice because he attempted an escape method that nobody would ever expect to work outside of a TV show or Hollywood action movie. During yard time one morning, stunned inmates watched in disbelief as a helicopter lowered itself into the exercise yard, a yard that was designed specifically for escape risks, like those serving life sentences. Kramer grabbed onto one of its skis and was ready to board, but one of the chopper's propellers came into contact with the wire atop the yard's wall, and down it went in a dramatic crash. Both Kramer with a broken ankle and the pilot with much more serious injuries to his head, neck, and back had to be extracted from the wreckage by fire crews. Kramer's escape plan was foiled, but he did get to ride in a
pretty good.
helicopter that day, along with his pilot, to the hospital.
What an idiot. He was so close.
Yeah.
So close.
An inmate at Sydney, Australia's Silverwater Correctional Complex for Women wasn't so lucky as the previous pair in her confrontation with razor wire. The woman sized up the security fence at the maximum security facility, decided she could take it on, and attempted to make it over in broad daylight. However, not only did she fail to clear the razor wire at the top, she actually became stuck in it. It took hours for about 24 prison guards, paramedics, a fire and rescue team, and a cherry picker operator to extract the hapless woman from the deadly razor wire. She was treated for multiple cuts and lacerations, presumably slapped with an escape charge, and became an unwilling teacher of a lesson that all prison inmates should be taught on the first day. You won't beat the razor wire, so it's best to not even consider it.
I'm guessing that they like gave her like more of a charge. I feel like that's punishment enough. Just let her just go back to her cell, because that's got to be painful and embarrassing.
You can beat the razor wire if you just get like you bring your prison blanket, those thick ones,
fold it over.
or you bring your mattress if you can sneak that out. Other than that, don't go. Don't do it. Dig a hole like Pablo.
That sucks. I love stuff like this. Let's do more.